welcome again to the Power Lunch. Today we have an interesting technology surrounding backups. We have Caleb and Vernon from what is it? Cold Store?
Redstor.
Redstor. Redstor. I was thinking cold storage. I used to live in a funeral home, so cold storage is important to me. But for Redstor, and Redstor is a cloud-based or a cloud element, I guess. I'll let you guys talk more about it. Cloud-based
Sure.
backup solution, and I think it overcomes some of the typical challenges you see within cloud-based backups. So I think that we'll let Caleb and Vernon talk a little bit, but we'll want to accentuate some of the challenges that it overcomes. So, Caleb, why don't you tell a little bit about yourself and Red Store, and then Vernon, you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much. Really appreciate the opportunity to connect, kind of give you a little bit of an overview of Redstor, tell a little bit about our technology, but really more importantly than that, how we can kind of help some customers solve some of the challenges and also, kind of navigating what cloud backups can offer, what coverage they can expect, and also help reducing some of the risks that they inherently see. We're seeing a huge rise in cybersecurity attacks, ransomware, encryption. Really, thieves are out there to get your data, and that's where backup can really be not only just a product that you procure, but an asset to help you combat some of those things that you might be experiencing. So that's what today is all about. Really, just thought leadership, really just educational to kind of show you who we are, how we're different, how we help you and your customers protect their data, to kind of get back to the task at hand in operating their business. So we've got a couple of points that we really want to hit on today. We have a couple of things that we wanted to really focus on. Obviously, being eliminating risks. We've touched a little bit about cybersecurity aspect of it, how we help combat ransomware, what some of the functions that are unique to Redstor can kind of help with that storyline. Streamlining efficiencies, how to manage everything more efficiently, how to, kind of treat backups as a set it and forget it, as opposed to spinning your wheels or spending your time and your energy on a backup product. And then also, if we can offer some cost savings along that, Kevin, you already mentioned we are cloud first in our approach. And so we reduce the need for physical hardware limitations. We can help you back up all of your data without having to procure servers or refresh storage on a consistent basis. And those are some of the ways that we do that, with eliminating the need for hardware. But ultimately, we do have some flexibility. We have some options to give you the option for local hardware, local copies as well. If you like to have it, need to have it, required to have it from a compliance standpoint, those are some of the things that obviously we understand, and a lot of our partners and our customers need those things as well.
Just as a quick question, like I said, this is a little bit of, relatively informal kind of conversational thing.
Sure.
Would you say that you compete slash beat like the Barracuda products of the world?
Mhm. That's an interesting brand name. So
Because I'm not a huge fan of their solution, to be honest with you. I'll share my biases here, but I'm not
sure.
a big Barracuda guy. So if we have a Barracuda killer here, I'd like to know about it.
Well, I can tell you, we're very biased about our product as well. So when you compare us against a product like a Barracuda, yes, certainly we compete directly with them. I'm confident enough to say that we beat a product like Barracuda because again, they were a very good name in the industry for a long time. I think it's safe to say they're more of a legacy offering at this point. They've got, they've built their brand, they've been established in the market. They're not as focused on research, development, and improvement as I can guarantee you that Redstor is. And that's really what our focus is to not just be one more backup vendor, but to be a smarter backup vendor, to be a safer backup vendor. And, again, confident to say a better backup vendor for sure.
Right. And we can get into kind of your presentation overview stuff, and I'll have a few questions on it, but I'll save those for him. But they are relative to a recent, relatively painful let's say fish experience I had.
Sure,
So it's
sure.
let's let you talk a little bit about your product first, and then we can get into the bashing everybody else.
Well,
Just
we're
to sorry
certainly
to
not
jump
here to
in there,
bash.
Caleb. Just
Well,
to
you
just to
okay?
jump in on the Barracuda side, some of the things that we do offer that Barracuda doesn't is our AI malware detection. That is a really key feature that we've got in the product, which I'm sure Caleb will touch on a little bit more later, as well as myself. They're also very reliant on Microsoft, whereas when you're working with Redstor and you're pulling the data out of Microsoft, you can restore it into a location of your choice rather than just back into Microsoft. So we removed that whole reliance there. One of the other things that we have found between, one of the key differences between Barracuda and Redstor is also the speed of the recoveries. One
that
of
was
our,
that was going to be my piece of it, was the speed piece.
yeah, and I mean we've got ways that we combat that with the instant data that we'll show that just now, but
Okay,
that is
good.
one of the big points as well.
Good, that's awesome, because that was one of my big questions was, oh my God, the speed was terrible. And my understanding of your technology is that it helps with that speed piece.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
our product was developed in South Africa, where they just don't have the bandwidth speeds that we do here in the States. And I say that to tell you, we've developed certain key features. Instant data, like Vernon was referring to, is a proprietary piece to our technology that truly gives you the ability to get instant availability to your data workloads. We like to call it kind of the Netflix of data, because we can stream the data back into your environment in real time, really giving you instant availability. There's some really great use cases out there as well, like auditing, like obviously the big one is disaster recovery, right? And a disaster scenario. But even outside of that, there's some use cases, auditing, quarterly business reviews, having to show proof of data for cyber insurance policies and things like that. We give you tools and functions to kind of help complement some of those requirements that we're seeing more and more in the industry as well.
When you say stream data back in, what does that mean? Like,
So typically when you're running a recovery, let's say you're downloading 10 terabytes, it's 100 million files. You typically have to wait for that entire data set to download before you can access the data, right? Now, that doesn't adhere to a lot of the RTOs. What we try and do is, while that data is restoring, you can access file 463,000 out of the 100 million straight away, while the rest of them are recovering in the background. So giving you the ability to open up what you need while the rest is still recovering. It gets you back into business. It gets your business up and running a lot quicker. There are the different instant data types, but it's mainly just to alleviate that stress. I mean, restores are stressful enough, right? We don't want to have you wait hours or days for your data to get back, because time is money. And if you don't have your data, you're losing money as the days progress. So getting that data back is our key function. Everyone backs up, right? Everyone can run a backup, but it's about how quickly can you get that data back.
Interesting. All right, yeah. Yep. Nope. That was exactly the case with my recent bad experience, was having to pull back this gigantic thing of, this gigantic set of files. And you know it was, the way I describe it is like trying to suck syrup through a straw. It was just such a it was
The
just a
perfect
terrible
analogy.
process. Yeah, it's just a
Cold
terrible
syrup at that.
process. Yeah, that's it. Cold syrup through a straw. So a methodology around being able to, or a tool that allows you to do that, like you said, to get working faster. Because like you said, of that 10 terabyte file, you don't need all 10 terabytes. That's not what you're looking for, to just start work, right? So
Right.
that's actually a pretty unique way of thinking about it. So thanks for explaining that whole concept of streaming the
Yeah,
data. Interesting.
absolutely. Would you like us to kind of pull up some of the information that we have for today, and we can kind of
Yeah.
talk through it,
Yep.
and maybe some of the typical other challenges that we hear? I mean, that's certainly a big one when we're talking back up. The time to recover is always a big one. So let me do this. Let me pull up a couple of slides here. We can kind of talk through them. one second. I'm not a heavy Zoom user, so I apologize for my ignorance here.
Well, I'm both heavy and a Zoom user, so.
Do we have
Now
to
I
give
don't
permission
have
to
the ability
share?
to share.
Let's see here.
How about
Let's try it now. There we go. Okay, perfect.
It was the first time I've
So-
ever done that, so I'm glad it went quick.
Yeah. Can you see my screen okay?
We see you.
You
Yeah,
see
not
me?
as yet. Have you got multiple screens? You might be sharing the wrong one.
I am absolutely doing that. Let me see here. How does that?
It's still you. It's all you, man.
I'm
There we go.
We got it now?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So we've touched a little bit on one of the key challenges when we're talking backup, right? Especially as a cloud backup solution, is those recovery time objectives. Really what that means is it's a fancy term for the time to get access back into your data sets, right? So we've got some other ones that we typically hear from our end customers and our partners alike that we talk about. The big one that we as a cloud first backup solution really focusing on is managing physical hardware, having to procure servers, NAS devices, boxes that, with COVID, we saw issues with supply chain. Managing infrastructure is becoming a thing of the past in some instances. So that's a big one that we help focus on. Is we don't have requirements for physical hardware. We don't sell our own boxes. We don't make you procure boxes, but if you need it, we're flexible enough to help you manage that. The other one is, around managing multiple vendors and onboarding and migration. I kind of present those two together. Of what we're typically seeing is there's a solution in place to help them manage their physical servers. There's a solution in place for them to manage SaaS applications like Office 365, for example. QuickBooks Online is a heavy use case that we have here at Redstor. And then even things like cloud workloads, Azure virtual machines, Kubernetes environments. Typically, you're using one tool to manage each one of those products independently, or you may be working with a vendor that says we protect all of those workloads under one roof, but really it's multiple different logins to do those things. Whereas with Redstor, it truly is a single pane of glass. I know that's kind of a marketing buzzword, but it truly is everything under one roof, keeping everything in one place so that you're not having to guess or look or search for different ways to identify your data, get visibility. In case of an audit, in case of a recovery need, you're not having to go hunt down the different data sets. You're able to keep everything in one place. Along with that, time and resources can kind of go hand in hand with that. If you're managing multiple workloads, if you're managing multiple tools, it can be hard to have the headcount and the bandwidth to do that effectively. So we can help you consolidate down there. The big ones that we've already mentioned today as well: cybersecurity, ransomware, regulation and compliance issues with HIPAA, with PCI compliance, with really personal privacy information compliance standards that customers have to meet because of the data that they're keeping on hand. With that comes along a lot of responsibility and a lot of needs. Whereas with Redstor, we give you those compliance and certifications by default. So it's a big key focus for us as well. Any questions here? Anything stand out to you, Kevin? Anything that you've seen in your own day-to-day that maybe want to drill in a little bit further here?
One of the things that kind of that we do is we look at the whole ransomware piece a little different than other MSPs and other managed services providers think about it in terms of protect, right? They want to build a moat, around the castle. And one of the things that we've seen is that just really doesn't work. In a lot of cases. I mean, if you become a target, you're still a target, and they'll eventually be successful. So one of the things that we do focus on is speed of recovery.
Yeah.
So we're as a defensive mechanism against ransomware. So if you wanted to talk a little bit about that and what makes this tool special in that space. I think we kind of scratched on the surface a little bit with the streaming back of data and the fast recovery, but maybe expand on that, the battle against ransomware a little bit.
Absolutely. That's a perfect talking point. So let me jump over. I actually have a specific section on our AI malware piece. Vernon can also show you a live demo of this in our platform as well to give you a little bit more granular look. But just to kind of speak to it at a high level, I'm going to skip over a few slides here. We've got, talk about our architecture, talk about the workloads that we support. But the big one for us is a key differentiator for us. And we include this by default. We do have AI-powered malware built into our solution. The key things to keep in mind here and ways that we're different from some of our competitors, as at the point of ingesting of the data, we're actually scanning each individual file for ransomware, for malicious file types, really just different types of compromised data sets that might have gotten into the production environment that customers may not even be aware of yet. So we're actually proactively scanning the backup sets to show them where risk may lie within their production environment. Now, we're not a replacement for any cybersecurity tools. We don't have a focus on cybersecurity, but we know how important that aspect is to a backup product. And so we've built it in-house into our product. So as we're ingesting the data, we are scanning for the malicious file types. We've actually built our own scanning tool, but we also partner with a couple other providers out there as well to give us a very wide breadth of how we can scan, what we can scan for, to really help make us as strong as possible when it comes to scanning. When we scan things, we also do things a little bit differently. We'll actually quarantine any specific files out of the backup sets so that it doesn't put your entire backup at risk of being removed or being deleted. We will quarantine that out of the backup sets itself. Now, when we quarantine anything, we'll actually give you a couple of different points of data as well. We're going to give you a probability score. So we're actually going to tell you on a scale from 1 to 100 how confident we are that the data is malicious or not. It could be 20%. It could just be something to look at, investigate. It could be 99%. It could be 100% proven that, hey, listen, this is a ransomware attack. This is in your production environment. We've already quarantined it from your backup set. And then the other thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to show you the local file path on the local machine in the production environment. So not only is your backup set safe by default and quarantined, but we'll actually give you the file path on your local infrastructure in case you need to take action there that might have slipped through the tools that your customers may or actually may not have in place. So we'll give you not only the ability to protect, but the ability to mitigate and remove.
Interesting. So is there a notification that goes with that? I mean, active notification. So it throws out an email and says, hey, we just identified this in the backup set. It's located at this, location, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, that's a great question. So absolutely is the answer to your question. We can generate customized reports. We can, we can put, the red flag, the emergency button right in front of your face, right? When issues happen, hey, we've recognized something that's new to the environment. You're going to want to take action here. Yes, we can absolutely generate reports. The dashboard also, the Redstor dashboard is actually designed to put all of that information front and center to you as well. So we give our partners the ability to give their end customers access into their own environment, whether that's a sandbox view only access or a full-blown admin access. We're going to give you all of the information front and center, all of the analytics so that you're able to, stay safe, keep yourself, reduce the risk, and give you some tools to do that as well.
When we say AI powered, what's the AI piece of it, or how does that work at a high level?
Yeah, so that's probably a better question for Vernon to answer. I know he's probably much better equipped to answer it versus the stumbling sales guy through it.
No worries. So it is essentially a machine learning model, an AI learning model. So as Caleb mentioned, there are a couple of sources that feed into that module, which constantly goes and updates those definitions. So as those definitions are released by the sources that that contribute to that that module, those definitions will constantly be updated. We'll be looking for the latest, greatest threats. Typically, your antivirus looks at your old school threats, like your Trojans and your worms, as an example. The AI malware detection that we've got looks at more of your in the wild threats, your backdoors, your adware, so on and so forth. It does also learn and understand how you interact with your data. So if, let's say, Caleb is going and moving 50,000 files every 2 minutes, which I doubt Caleb does, not many of us do that. We do go and we pick that up as malicious activity as well, because generally there's not that many changes happening to your files. That then gets,
I'm sorry. Nope, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So that would just be reported into the portal. And one of the tags or options that we'd give to you is to go and mark that as safe. So if you know that those files aren't infected, it could be a false positive, it could be Caleb moving files, or it could just be an ARB file format, as an example. It's not infected, it's just got a different format no one really uses. It would then flag it in there for you.
Okay. So is it kind of for lack of a better way to describe it, and if I'm wrong, feel free to tell me I'm wrong. Is it kind of similar as like CrowdStrike in that regard, where it's real-time updates coming in from all over the place, kind of making the tool better, if you will?
Yeah, there are a couple of sources that add to it. It's not antivirus, so it's not like your typical antiviruses that are out there. It's all Redstor built, and it's completely separate. Remember, antivirus will also just look after the data that sits on your device. It doesn't protect your backup data.
Right. Oh, okay. Good point. Yeah, the way I describe antivirus is it's kind of like driving to work looking in the rearview mirror, because it's based on past events.
Yeah.
And I think, and like I said, like CrowdStrike does a little bit better job of that, because even though it's still the rearview mirror, based on past events, it's kind of updating faster, right? You're having faster access to that information. Does this kind of take it to the next step and do any kind of predictive stuff, or let me rephrase that? Does this tool kind of learn what normal is, and if it sees outside normal, it kind of raises the red flags?
Yeah,
you kind of tune the model. It's kind of like you have to tune the model.
Yeah, it does do that. It learns how you interact with your data. So if you've gone and, let's say there was a false positive and you've marked that file as safe, it will ignore it until there is an actual threat. I would love if we could predict threats, right? It would be amazing, but unfortunately there's no such thing as being 100% ransomware protected. It's just about how you recover from that infection.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of one of the things that we work to educate our customers about. And it's not it's not that we're saying not to use antivirus, but it's to be used in concert with other things.
Right.
And that we shouldn't be ignoring the role of backups in that protection piece of it. And understanding your backups and being able to restore quickly is really kind of the secret sauce, right? Because that's what what I run into a lot is organizations that when you start talking about backups, like, yeah, we have backups. Well, you do. Okay, so how do you know you have backups? Well, the little light comes on a tape machine once a day. Oh, okay. So have you ever tried restoring? So there's this kind of whole concept about, being a little bit cavalier with the whole backup space, when really it can represent the lifeline.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
That's how we spin it.
Yep, having a rich, vibrant backup capability really speaks to how quickly you can recover from all kinds of disasters, right? All kinds of
That's such a
issues.
great point. Yeah. It's one of those things, right? Of like, how long can you afford to be down? How long can your business afford to be without their data, be without the ability to get up and running? The tape is kind of going the way of the dodo bird, right? Like, we're seeing more people migrating away from that. more and more. And you know, that's the name of the game, right? Is can you afford an outage? Can you afford, you know, losing your data? Even that would kind of be a worst case scenario, not just an outage, but actual, you know, encryption of your data or loss of your data.
Does this solution allow organizations to run remote? So in other words, if they have an issue, can you run from your environment temporarily?
That's a great question. So we provide the backend storage. We do provide 2 copies of the data by default. So there is some redundancy built in. We only provide the storage. We do not provide the compute. Caveat though, we do provide the ability to recover to instances like Azure. So if you have an Azure instance, or if your customers have an Azure instance or have the ability to create one, then we have a direct express route tie-in to Azure, and we can recover there, and they're up and running in you know, a short amount of time without having to wait for a a server to ship or something like that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that would also be for VMware.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we've covered a lot. I think, you know, again, you tell me, Kevin, we'd be happy to spend some time in the portal directly, kind of giving you a formal walkthrough, showing you our interface, how intuitive it is to add products, kick off backups, if you think that's relevant.
I would like to see a quick demo of the product if we can. I mean, that would be good if we could see kind of a quick step through of it.
Perfect. Yeah.
And the simplicity and some of the information that people would have access to.
That's great. And the other thing that we'll cover, you know, we'll show you what the AI malware piece looks like within the portal. We'll show you what end user access looks like within the portal, what level of customization you as the, you know, trusted managed service provider have to, you know, kind of reduce risk and protect your customers, but also give them visibility and access. So I'm going to stop sharing on my side. I'm going to hand things over to Vernon so that we can jump into the actual dashboard. But this has been a great conversation. Let's keep you know, asking questions as things catch your eye.
Are you able to see my screen as yet?
Yep.
Yeah. Perfect.
Okay, perfect. I have just switched my camera off, otherwise you're going to be seeing the profile of my face the whole time. So please don't think I'm being rude. So the portal as it stands that you're looking at here is, as Caleb mentioned earlier, it's a single interface where you'll be able to manage absolutely everything within your environment, from all of the different workloads that you see on the left-hand side. The portal does offer additional security. So when you're logging in, you've got your single sign-on methods, whether it be Google, Microsoft, or Mail. And over and above that, we do have two-factor authentication, which runs either through your Microsoft Authenticator app or your Google Authenticator app. And that is just to ring-fence the security behind the actions that are performed within the portal, who has access to it, and in the event of like any sort of deletions or anything, it has gone through the relevant steps before deletion. So when you log into the portal, it will tell you everything that has happened within the last 24 hours. So you'd be able to see how well you are protected. That percentage shows you if, as an example, you've got a server with 100 gigs, you're only backing up 50 gigs worth of the data. That would then give you your 50% data protected. The other 50% would be your dashed out green lines. You'd be able to see your backup statuses across all of the products again on the left. You can also drill down into those. If there are any warnings and errors, you could go a step further and go and see what they are. And then it's also really handy to see if you were running any sort of recoveries in the last 24 hours, if those were successful or if those failed. We even have some partners that use it to see if restores were run that shouldn't have been run. It's a nice feature to have. One of the other things that we spoke about earlier was the malware detection. So as Caleb mentioned, front and center, they are your suspicious files. If we then drill into that, we should then see a list of files that we've deemed to be infected. Murphy's Law, when you're having a call, it takes a little bit longer. Okay, so if I just click on one of these, there you can see we've picked up a possible worm. The classification type, that is your Trojans, your worms, adware, backdoor, so on and so forth. Your source will tell you if it's in your infrastructure, whether it's in Hyper-V, VMware, if it's in your Azure virtual machines. It also works for Microsoft 365, so for your Exchange, OneDrive, SharePoint, and Teams. That includes your calendar, your contacts, and then Google Workspace, your Google Drive, Gmail, calendar, and contacts as well.
So this whole tool works in the Microsoft 365 space as well?
It does. It will scan the data that is backed up from that tenant through to Redstor.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
That's pretty cool.
It is indeed. And then we'll also just tell you the layout as to the company structures within the portal. So if you've got multiple customers or you're managing multiple customers, we'll tell you exactly which customer in which product. So it just gives you that hierarchy. And then as Caleb mentioned earlier, this is where that file resides within your estate. That then isn't our responsibility to remediate. It's then up to the customer, but we can give you the information as to where it sits, right? One of the big benefits with it as well is straight off the bat, we'll tell you when that infection took place. Now, we all know how ransomware works. It comes in, it locks your files, and it becomes this vicious cycle of reload, restore, reload, restore. So we can either go and restore from the 29th because we know this infection only took place on the 30th. But if I want the data from the 30th, I can simply go and mark that file as safe, or I can go and delete that file from my backups. So when I'm restoring, I'm guaranteed to be restoring clean data. And if there is a previous clean version of the file, then there would be a third option there to revert back to a previous clean state. Any questions on that one so far?
No, it's very interesting. I guess, yeah. So as an MSP, if we're providing a service to multiple customers, I would assume that there's a aggregated dashboard that shows us information and warnings for multiple customers.
That would then sit in your customers tab on the left. So here you can see we've got a whole bunch of demo customers. When you're looking at the information here, this would pertain to all of your customers, whereas the previous dashboard would be for your in-house data.
Okay.
If I just close that quickly, then we also mentioned we've got our data tagging, which is it goes in accordance with your PPI files. If you're in the UK, it's got your GDPR compliance. This is nice for data management. So this will go and look for specific files containing specific data or keywords, and then from there, highlighting those files for you within the portal. The benefit of using that is you know where most of your critical data sits. From there, making that decision to go and make sure that that data is selected for backup. So it's nice to know where it is. From there, going and selecting it, so we can then say, okay, this finance document resides within Phil's MacBook, which product is a machine, obviously. This is the company it belongs to. Here is the file path where it resides within that machine. And we've picked that up as highly sensitive. We would then go to Phil's MacBook, make sure that it's backed up, or that location on Phil's MacBook is backed up, just so that you are protected with your critical information is protected. Okay. Some of the security things around, or security aspects with regards to the portal, is the logins to the portal. So as it stands, if you wanted to add a new user, you could then go and assign them to a specific customer that you manage. You can also go and limit which products they're able to add. So if they are only backing up infrastructure, as an example, or they don't want to sell a certain product, we can go and remove that from their view. The only thing with removing that from a view is it sort of takes away from the product-led growth side of it, where you have a customer that's just backing up infrastructure, they're clicking through the portal and they're like, look, they back up Microsoft 365. You're sort of eliminating the upsell from that. Then when it comes to the permissions, you've got 3 different sets. It's not showing my view only because I'm not in a specific customer view, but you can then go and specify which permissions each login has. So as an example, I don't want Caleb to go and delete data. I don't want him to be able to change my backup selections. And of course, he needs to restore data. And I don't want him to view any suspicious files. That's my job. I can go and limit what access he has to which features are available within the portal. Okay. The key difference between the admin user and the standard user is the ability to go and create additional users and add additional products. And that goes, well, looks more at your main MSP rather than their customers. And then for your other teams, such as finance and marketing, we do have a view only, which will just give them access to the portal. They can bounce around between the customers, but they cannot change anything at all. Any questions so far?
Huh, I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hose.
One of the last things, and it's really nice that it's one of the things that we offer a lot of our customers, is a free 30-day trial. It's all good and well. We talk about the product as much as we do. We blow its bells and whistles, but there's nothing better than kicking the tires. So we will give you and all of our customers free 30-day trials. What's nice with that is you've then built up 30 days worth of retention. That's great. If you like the product, we move it straight out of trial into production. No reconfiguration or reinstallation required. If you don't like it, we shake hands, we part ways, and we delete the data. Okay. But it's nice that for 30 days, you don't receive a bill for it.
From a high level, just real quick question. Are the data that's backed up, is that onshore data centers?
Those are, so the data, if you're backing up the data from the States, it stays within the States. It is replicated between 2 data centers within there. If you're backing up outside of the States, we do pride ourselves on data sovereignty. So wherever the source is, we keep that data within that country unless otherwise specified.
If someone has HIPAA requirements, do you guys provide any kind of a statement around that so they can provide that to their audit teams?
We do indeed. So
Awesome.
What I will do quickly is just open up a folder that I've got here. And this does, add to the whole security aspect as well. There are all of our ISO certificates. Here is the HIPAA compliance. It's just opened up on my other screen. Okay, so there is the HIPAA compliance. So yeah, we can definitely provide any sort of, any of these documentation or certificates.
Okay, very cool. All right.
The big part about that, right, is our retention policies. Our default retention is 7 years from the start. Because of HIPAA certification, we give you the ability to extend that without any additional charge. So there is, we do have some customers that have the need for 10-year retention. Our default is 7 because of HIPAA compliance specifically.
Yeah, there is also no cutoff to how long we can keep the backups for. So if you need to keep that data indefinitely, that is fine. We can do that. If you want to keep Exchange for 3 months, Teams for 7 years, OneDrive for 50, and SharePoint for 999, we can also split that accordingly.
I'm assuming you do, but do you have allowances for litigation hold and stuff like that?
What do you mean by that, if you don't mind me asking?
Sometimes if an organization has a court case or something like that, and certain data is under litigation, it has to be under some kind of a litigation hold so that data is not removed. Is that something that is part of this tool, or how is that accomplished?
We can do that. We have had requests in the past for investigations that have, that were underway.
Or do you offload that to a separate storage for them?
We completely remove it from their view within the portal. That way they cannot change it. They cannot delete it. They cannot move it, which is, until that whole investigation is sorted, then we put it back to the way it was. But we can most definitely do that. That also brings us onto the point of immutable backups, right? You don't want to be able to edit, change, or delete anything from your backups. So when we are running the backups and it's written to the primary data center, once it is replicated to the secondary data center, that second copy is completely immutable. It also sits in an entirely different format to what it is on the primary, obviously for security reasons. But yeah, that data, once it's there, you cannot change it at all.
Okay. Awesome. Very good. Well, it looks like we've consumed most of our time. I guess I do have a question, Caleb. Have you talked to Paul, our founder, about this? Are we currently partners or on the track to partnership? So if people have questions, they can work with NetV Pro on it, or
Yeah, that's a great question. We have had the conversation with Paul. We have
Okay.
had the same presentation with Paul. Uh, we don't have a formal partnership in place. We haven't signed any paperwork just because we wanted to kind of work on the demand portion of it first. But
well, let me ask this question: do you sell only through MSPs, or can people buy direct if there's interest?
That is a great question. So we do not sell direct. We only sell through our channel partners. That's why we wouldn't discuss pricing on this call. We didn't want to
Right.
get into the weeds there because we only sell through our MSP community.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well, I'll find out from Paul where we are with it. I guess after seeing it, I probably would like to entertain having you guys back on again to talk a little bit more about it, and I'll take some time to educate myself more. You know, Paul had brought this up as one that we should look at and take a look at. With
Yeah.
the PowerLunch, but I would like to maybe do a deeper dive on some parts of this once I get a chance to look at it a little bit more. And
Yeah, absolutely.
and if, like I said, I'll talk to Paul and see if we have a need for it in some of our customers. It would be cool to be able to have a use case to actually do like a real world demo of it if we can get something like that going. So,
Yeah,
like I said,
that's great feedback. Really appreciate that.
yeah. So, like I said, maybe we look for doing this again in a couple months, and we bring it back in, and I'll have a chance to do more than read brochureware and stuff in preparation. You know, like actually get in and kind of work with it a little bit and learn more about it. And then we can do something that's real, kind of deep and rich in that regard. And there's
Yeah.
probably elements to this that I would like to explore in more detail. So if you guys are willing to do that, I'd love to, like I said, do this again. And I think this was a great overview, and it's a good thing to talk about. But to me, it seems like there's a lot more after talking to you guys. There's a lot more of this that we should be exposing out to our customers and potential customers too. So
Yeah, I love that. That's really awesome. We're happy to do all of that. We barely scratched the surface. We really
Yeah.
tried to shy away from the deep.
Yeah, I know that's
technical
kind of my
and weed stuff.
sense of it, is that we just kind of scratch the surface, which I mean we need the intro piece of it because you can't dive in,
Yeah,
just to that
of
piece.
course.
But I'd in a couple months here, I'd like to do it again, and we can maybe focus on a couple elements. Maybe we'll do, a couple of different topics, and kind of do them in a cadence. But no, very cool stuff. Very really neat tech, and again, we'll peel back some of the layers here
I was
and
gonna
keep going
say,
with it.
on a surface level, if we're able to partner with you guys and those sorts of things, I'd love to be able to get like a white paper with you and be able to just say, this is all the cool stuff we got going on, because just taking notes for what I should put into like a YouTube description is way past what I'd ever write down for any other
Well,
company. So
interestingly enough, and I know Pipes, you could probably stop the recording piece of it now, but I'll tell these guys that
unless we need any sort of wheel spinner activity between the two of these guys, since we don't have any other people on today.
yeah, we're probably good.
Okay.